In this video, you're going to learn all about ISO 9001. Hi, my name's Craig Thornton, and I'm from Mango. So let's get started. Who is ISO? Well, ISO is the International Organization for Standardization. It's not an acronym. ISO actually is a word meaning equal. So the International Organization for Standardization is formed in Geneva and has over 200 country members. Its job is to revise and issue international standards, and so about 800 of those are revised and issued annually. The one we're going to look at today comes from the Technical Committee 176. ISO 9001 is a standard that gets revised every 7 or 8 years, and the committee that's responsible for that is 176. There's also involvement from international standards organisations from around the world, America Standards or American National Standards, Canada, British, New Zealand, Australia. There's many of them all involved in that technical committee. So let's have a look at the ISO 9000 family. The family of standards comes from 9000, which is just the fundamentals and vocabulary. The main one is the 9001 standard, which are the requirements for having a quality management system. And the third one is guidance on how to achieve sustained success by having a quality management system in your organization. And that's ISO 9004. So I recommend that you get each of those standards and you pay for those from ISO.org. So what is ISO 9001? So obviously from the start it's an international standard, and it's for organisations for all industries. So whether you're in manufacturing, construction, logistics, professional services, multitudes of industries that provide products, and also for those service organisations. They can all get and achieve ISO 9001. So what is the benefit for you having ISO 9000 as a standard for your organisation? Well, having this particular standard provides a better management of your core business processes. So the standard gets you to look at all your processes, and what this does achieve is that it makes you focus on your core business processes. What are you trying to achieve for your customers? It also helps increase awareness of quality amongst your staff. It brings to light various areas of how do you achieve good quality for your organisation, for your products, or for your services. So therefore, shedding light on that creates awareness of quality for your staff. It reduces the costs of quality. So if you're focusing on quality, you can look at waste, and maybe using some lean techniques, you can reduce waste in your organisation, which helps reduce the cost of quality. It will improve your productivity as well, so shining light on those areas that may cause waste or may be unproductive, then you can improve those using the improvement clause in the standard to achieve improved productivity. It will improve your internal communications as well. Shining light again on these processes means that you'll start to communicate better around those processes. You will find that over time you will improve your customer satisfaction, and your customers will become more aware that if you've got ISO 9001, they may get a better service or a better product. There's that higher perceived quality in the marketplace, so those companies that do have ISO 9001 may win more business than others because they have a perception of a higher quality product or service. You may find that using the design and development processes in the standard that you will find a quicker time to market for any of your new products. So those companies that have ISO 9001 may have some formal processes that helps get products quicker to market if that's what they want to achieve. It will enhance your competitive edge. So if you're up against somebody else in a particular tender and you have ISO 9001 and they don't, you're more than likely to win that job. And if you do win more jobs and win over your competition, that will of course increase your market share. So those are the benefits of having ISO 9000 certification, or ISO 9001 certification as the particular standard you want to achieve. So let's look at the principles of the standard itself. There are 7 key quality management principles that you need to put into your business as part of having ISO 9001. There's a customer focus on your customers, obviously. So there's an increased focus on your customers. You need to have good, strong leadership. And leadership is probably what I believe is the number one reason why some of these quality standards or quality systems fail, if there's poor leadership. But if there's good, strong leadership, then those people that have that leadership will find better commitment from their staff towards those standards. You'll find better engagement of your staff in your systems if you have ISO 9000 certification. There's a requirement there to have a process approach. I'll go into detail a little bit more on that just after this slide. This is one of the key requirements of your system. You need to have a process approach to achieving improved quality systems. There's an improvement angled on this at all times, so you're constantly looking at your processes. You're looking to improve them, reducing waste, making sure that the quality of your product or service is continually improving. Any decisions that you make hopefully should be based on evidence rather than on opinion. So that's an evidence-based decision-making process that you need to have as a principle within your side of your organization. And there's a relationship management process to occur with inside of your business. So you need to have good relationships with your suppliers, good relationships with your customers, good relationship with your contractors. So there's a relationship management angle that you need to have with inside of your organization. So let's just dive into that process approach. You need to look at your activities and the things that you're actually doing to achieve whatever you're wanting to achieve for your business. And they should be managed as a process. So from receiving maybe an order through to delivering that product out the door, there's a process that needs to occur that gets that product out the door when the customer wants it. So you need to look at all the activities and all of the resources and look to optimize those as you go through this process. What are the key requirements when you've got processes in place is you want to be looking at the key activities that occur between functions. So when a product or a service is handed off between a department or between different branches or between different functions within inside of your organization, you want to look at those interfaces and see how they operate and are they efficient. You want to focus your efforts on looking at your inputs. So what methods are you going to use? What materials are you going to use? What equipment are you going to use? And what resources are you going to use to deliver the product or the service? So focus your when you're looking at your processes, focus on those inputs and seeing how they're then turning into outputs. When you're looking at your processes, always consider what value is being added to the process over time. And if there's no value being added or the value is not good for the customer, then obviously remove that from your processes. You need to be constantly looking at your processes in terms of their performance and their effectiveness. So set objectives, look to achieve those objectives through process performance and looking at how effective those processes are operating. And then look at continually improving your processes based on objective evidence. So if you're looking to improve maybe delivery of a product on time, and you're wanting to achieve, say, 99%, you need to sort of obviously measure where you currently are and look to put in some actions and activities to achieve that 99% standard. Rightio, so let's have a look at the standard itself. It's quite a simple standard, but one area that is probably overlooked is those preamble sections of the standard. So let's have a look at the foreword, the introduction, the scope, the normative references, and the terms and definitions. So read through those sections, understand what they mean. Mostly they're talking about setting up like a plan, a do, a check, an act, philosophy. So plan what you're trying to achieve, do it, check to see that you're meeting that, and then act on the results of that. So that's the Deming cycle. So look through those initial clauses there, understand those clauses, understand what the 9001 is trying to achieve for your organization, and have a clear understanding of what those clauses mean. So into the meat of the standard, the first one is you look at the context of your organization. So you start with understanding what your organization does and what its context is. What are you trying to achieve? And so you're looking at what are the needs and expectations of interested parties. So that could be your customers, your suppliers, your employees, your local community, the government, local government, all of these particular, or neighbours to you, all of these are interested parties to your organisation. So you need to understand what context you're looking at. You then look through that context and you work out, so what I'm wanting to achieve, you work out what is the scope of what you're wanting to achieve. It could be to deliver a product, it could be to deliver a service at a particular point in time from a particular location, could be the scope of your system. And then finally, you need to implement a quality management system and all its processes to achieve that outcome from the scope. Next part of the standard is around leadership. So leadership is all about top management or senior management in your organization committing to meeting the ISO 9001 standard, making sure that that commitment has a customer focus. You're wanting to achieve good outcomes for your customers so that they will continually buy your product or your service from you. Inside of that, the top management need to develop a quality policy and then communicate that policy to your organization. So that is the sort of the peak of the quality management system, is that policy, because the policy drives action further down. So it drives into your objectives, which then derives into your procedures, which then drives down into your forms and checklists and templates. And then finally, with inside of the leadership, is you need to look at all the roles, the responsibilities and authorities that is inside of your organization that want to achieve your quality policy. The next clause is looking at planning your systems, planning mainly around at the start, looking at all the risks and opportunities that you have with inside of your organization. The ISO 9001 talks a lot about risk-based thinking. So look at your risks. It's not a full risk management process as such. It's close to that. It's just you need to identify those risks and those opportunities that your organization has there, and look at sort of actions and things that you need to do to address those risks and opportunities. Then it's also part of the once you've developed that, as part of that, you need to develop some objectives, some plans to achieve those objectives. So, if, like I said before, if you're wanting to achieve an objective of delivery in full and on time, then create that as an objective, and then what are the plans and what are the processes are you going to put in place to be able to achieve that goal. And then finally in this section is planning any changes. So when you've implemented these processes and you're wanting to make changes to those processes and improve them or remove them, then you need to have a change process in place to make sure that people are all aware of those changes and they get signed off at appropriate stages. Okay, so the next set of clauses is around support. So you want to be looking at what resources do you have inside of your organization that wants to achieve good outcomes for the business. So you want to be looking at the people, the infrastructure, the environment where you work, monitoring and measuring devices that you've got to achieve those. And then also sort of how do you capture organizational knowledge? Is it captured inside of certain individuals, or is there a sharing of knowledge? Look at those processes and understand what they are. And then you're then going through sort of the training area, the competency, the awareness, and then the communication of that amongst your staff. So what training have you given your staff? How do they become aware of these processes and know what needs to be achieved? And then finally in this section, you're looking at the documentation, any documented information. That could be on paper, it could be on video, it could be on any electronic form. And then how do you then control those documents so that the most up-to-date document or documentary evidence is documentation evidence is available for your staff. Okay, so section 8 of the standard operation is the major clause of the whole standard. This is how you're going to provide the product or service for your customers. So starting at the top, so you need to have a whole lot of planning processes in place to be able to plan what you're wanting to achieve for your customers. Early on, what are their requirements? You need to have understanding and clear customer communication with them to understand what are their requirements. How do you determine what their requirements are? If they wanted X number of widgets by a certain date, you need to make sure that you deliver those widgets by that date if that's what the customer's requirements are. You need to review those requirements. Can we actually achieve that by the due date? And if there are any changes to those requirements, how is that communicated to the staff? Next, design and development. This is a big section of the standard that talks about how do you develop your new products or your new services as part of the design and development of your business. So there's planning involved there, there's design inputs, there's controls of those designs, there's outputs and there's changes. So when you're designing new product, do you do design reviews? Do you capture your design requirements as documents? And then how do you then test to see that you've achieved those requirements? So there's a whole big section there on how you manage any design and development for your products. Next is once you've developed your product, then how do you then control the processes for achieving conformance of those products to the customer's requirements? So how much control do you have over those processes? If you don't have a lot of control, then have you got any special processes that check to see that those controls are in place? You may have external providers that are providing certain standard processes that you can't do with inside of your organization, and you contract those out to external providers. Then 8.5 is is the actual creation of the product or the service. How do you control that? How do you provide identification and traceability of the product or the service that you're doing? How do you then preserve that product over time? Maybe through, if it's a food-related product, could be through, storage and refrigeration units. Then there's post-delivery activities. So how do you then provide ongoing support for the product once it's out with the customer? And then if there's any changes to that product, how do you control changes to the products as they develop over time? Then how do you then release those products to customers? Do you go through a release process or a delivery process? And then if there are any non-conforming products that you develop during the production of your products or service, how do you deal with non-conforming ones? Do you deliver those to customers? Do you hold on to them? Do you rework them? There's a whole bunch of clauses that require you to look at that. So that's the main part of 9001. In clause 9, you're looking at how do you monitor and measure the processes that or the product as you're delivering that product to the customer. How do you monitor that? Do you check that the customers are satisfied? Do you evaluate them in process or at the end? You need to have processes around that. There's internal audit processes that you need to make sure that the policies, the procedures, and the processes that you have developed, you need to audit those to make sure that those things are being followed by your employees. And there's a management review process in place to ensure that at regular intervals, management are checking to see that your systems have been effectively implemented, are actually being followed. And then the final clause is around improvement. So you're wanting to look at how to improve your general processes, looking at firstly looking at non-conformities and those corrective actions to make sure that those things that if they are non-conforming are corrected in the first place, and then you make sure that they don't happen again. And then the last clause there around continual improvement. Your processes need to be continually reviewed and updated and improved and checked to make sure that they are actually delivering what the customer wants and continually improved. So that's the whole of the 9001 standard. So those customers or those people that want to achieve ISO 9001 certification, there is a process to be followed. So firstly, for 9001, create a plan to achieve certification. So create a plan looking at all those clauses that I've just discussed and look at how are we going to achieve each of those clauses and create a nice simple plan to do that. Next, develop the policies, procedures and processes to achieve that. This should all be laid out in your plan. Once you've done that, you then implement those into your organization. So you implement those policies and those procedures and those processes. Once they're been implemented, you want to capture evidence that people are actually complying with those policies, procedures and processes. And you want to maybe conduct an internal audit at the end just to make sure that you have got full compliance. And then you go through a certification process. So for most certification organizations that come into your organization to certify you, they have a stage 1 and a stage 2. So stage 1 is they're looking at those policies and procedures and those processes. They may be looking at your manuals, they may be looking at and interviewing some of your staff just to get a general understanding, and they do that at stage 1. So once they're happy with stage 1, they then conduct a stage 2, more than likely be on site. It could also be remote, where they look at all of those processes and procedures that you have got and how do they compare with the ISO 9001 standard. And they make a judgment on whether you are achieving that or not achieving that. And if you aren't achieving the standard, they'll arrange, or they will come with some corrective action requirements for you to correct your systems before you can finally get certification. So once you achieve certification, there's an ongoing maintenance plan in place to make sure that you are maintaining your systems to meet the requirements of the 9001 standard. So typically that's an annual surveillance audit where the certification organisations will come back annually to look at your system and surveil your system to see whether you're meeting your standard. But every 3 years they will come back and do a full audit of your system to make sure that it's still meeting the requirements of the ISO 9001 standard. So there you have it, that's ISO 9001 explained. If you enjoyed that video, why don't you click here and see how you can conduct remote internal audits.